Rich businessman Caleb runs into his office janitor, bearing a striking resemblance to his late mother, who was believed to be dead for 28 years. When a DNA test reveals the woman is his biological mother, Caleb decides to seek answers from his father, who had lied to him about her death. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. It was a bustling Monday morning. 29-year-old Caleb was sitting in his office, looking through his company's annual report on his laptop. Suddenly, a janitor, a woman likely in her late 50s, walked in with cleaning supplies. "Excuse me, sir. I'm extremely sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you. I'll just mop up the floor in 5 minutes," she said as Caleb looked up and experienced the massive shock of his life. The woman standing in front of him bore an uncanny resemblance to his late mother, who had died 28 years ago. "Oh my God, it's unbelievable," Caleb gasped. "It's okay. Please come in," he said, his gaze stalking the woman as she marched across the office. I don't think I've seen you around before, but your face looks so familiar." The woman smiled and turned around. "My name is Michelle, sir. I started working here only recently. This town is quite small. Maybe you would have seen me somewhere. But I moved here just 2 weeks ago." "I'm Caleb," he said as his brows furrowed with suspicion. "Michelle, I don't understand why I get this strange feeling when I see your face, but maybe you're right," he added as he reached for his cup of coffee, only to accidentally spill it on his laptop. "Damn, not again." Caleb leaped back. "Don't worry, sir. I'll clean it up for you." Michelle dropped the mop and hurried to Caleb's table to clean the mess. She rolled up her sleeves and started wiping the laptop with a cloth. That's when Caleb's eyes fell on a peculiar scar on her left arm. "There you go. Your laptop is clean," Michelle said as she turned to Caleb. "This scar, huh? How did you get it?" he asked. "Oh, this scar? Well, you may find it strange, but I don't remember anything that happened to me over 20 years ago. I have amnesia. I don't even remember my name. When I saw the name Michelle on a billboard, I adopted it as my own, and I have no memory of how I got this scar." Caleb's heart started to race. "And what about your relatives and friends?" he asked Michelle while simultaneously looking at her left arm bearing the oval-shaped burn mark. "I don't have anybody," Michelle disappointedly said. "Nobody came for me all these years, not even when I was in the hospital. I lived a gypsy life and finally found a job here in this town." A strange sensation crawled up Caleb's gut. He knew his mind was dealing with a bizarre theory, but Michelle's scar and striking resemblance to his dead mother left him reeling. "Michelle, you won't believe this, but you look a lot like my late mother, who I had only seen in an old photograph," he revealed. "What? I resemble your late mother? Oh dear, really?" Michelle stopped in her tracks. "Yes, you look a lot like my mother. She died 28 years ago, according to my dad," replied Caleb. "She had the exact same scar like this. I know this is going to sound crazy, but can we go to the hospital and take a DNA test together? I don't know why I'm even saying this, but something is bothering me. Something doesn't seem right, and I want to find out if there are any odds." Michelle pondered for a few seconds. Like Caleb, even she was curious to find out if they were related and agreed to take the test with him. That as they drove in Caleb's car to the city hospital, nothing but a deadly, grim silence prevailed between them. On the one hand, Caleb was unsettled about getting a positive result. He knew he would have to sort out a lot of things and connect so many dots if Michelle turned out to be his biological mother. But what if I'm just assuming things? Caleb thought, what if it's just a coincidence? What if my mother is really dead and Michelle is not my biological mother and just her look-alike? As Caleb drove across the bustling road and pulled over in the middle of thick traffic, he stared at Michelle in the rearview mirror and her eyes looked eerily familiar. Something about those eyes of hers forced Caleb to plunge into his memories. He sat back behind the wheel, recalling the fateful day he made a heartbreaking discovery about his mother while fixing the roof with his dad, William, 12 years ago, when Caleb was 17 years old. And like this, see, you just twist the claw hammer and pull out the rotten plank. Caleb's dad, William, was teaching him how to get rid of old, rotting wooden planks. They were doing minor home repairs together that Saturday afternoon. That was a good plank. Can be used as firewood, William said as he gathered all the worn-out planks on the lawn. Caleb was bored of these never-ending fixes his dad taught him every weekend. "Dad, why can't we just hire some carpenters?" he smirked. "And pay them to do all this stuff? It's so tiring and boring." William chuckled as he plucked another plank out. "Champ, if we pay others money for the simple things we can do on our own, then we'll go to rags like your Uncle Dexter. Moreover, we'll become very lazy again, like your Uncle Dexter. Now get back to work and start pulling out the planks from the floor in the attic. We must replace them as well." "Yeah, whatever." Caleb squared his shoulders. He climbed up the attic, and just as he removed one of the planks on the floor, he noticed a weathered piece of paper under it. Curiosity got the better of Caleb as he picked it up. It was an old, crumpled photograph of an unknown woman with a baby cradled in her arms. "Weird. Who is this woman in this picture? I haven't seen her before," wondered Caleb as he flipped the photograph and saw a signature on the back with the words, "Baby Caleb with Mommy." "Happy birthday, sweetheart, Caleb with Mommy?" Caleb grew unsettled. He was stunned by those words. It made no sense why his name was mentioned on the back of a stranger's picture because, first of all, the woman in the photo did not look like his mother, Olivia. And then, she had a weird oval-shaped scar on her left arm Caleb had never seen on his mother Olivia's arm. Haunted by the unknown, Caleb took the photo and climbed down the attic, making his way to his dad to find out. "Dad, what is this? Who is she?" Caleb approached William, who was busy making pencil marks on the new wooden planks. "What?" William turned around with a start. "I found this while removing the plank in the attic." "Who is she?" Anxiety surged into William's eyes, and his face grew ashen, as though he had seen a ghost. "Where did you get that from?" he asked. Uneasiness etched all over his face. "Dad, I asked you what this is. Who is this woman? And what does it mean by Caleb with Mommy written on the back of this photo? Is that baby in her arms me?" Caleb retorted. Willem was beyond shocked as he grabbed the picture from Caleb's grip. He stared at it again and again. Uneasiness cloaked his face, and William knew he could no longer hide the truth from his son. "Come with me." He dropped the hammer and marched to the kitchen. Caleb hastily followed his dad. William grabbed a bottle of beer from the fridge and sat down at the dining table, anxiously tapping his fingers on the glass as he looked up at his son. "Caleb, trust me when I say this." William chugged a drink and said, his tone heavy with agony, "All my life, I only wished you nothing but good. I wanted you to be happy, wanted you to grow up into a successful man, achieve great things. I and my wife, Olivia, we always wanted the best for you." Caleb was desperate to suppress the flood of tears, but his eyes betrayed him. "Your wife, Olivia? That means Olivia is not my mother?" he sadly asked. William solemnly bowed his head. His silence answered Caleb's question, but William found himself obliged to confess the truth that struck Caleb like a thunderbolt. "Yes, dear, Olivia is not your real mother. Your birth mother died 28 years ago. I'm sorry, son. I didn't mean to." Caleb was paralyzed with shock by the revelation, and the truth seemed to have upturned everything he thought he knew about his mother. How did she die? He broke William's silence, desperate to know more about his mother's fate. A car accident, William replied, his voice choked with grief. It was nobody's fault. Fate betrayed us, and your mother was destined to leave us that day. It was an unfortunate dark day in my life, one that I can never forget. You were just a baby. You needed a mother. I moved on with Olivia not because I wanted a wife. I wanted to bring you a mother. Caleb was shaken, but after hearing his dad out, he took the news like a grown boy. Dad, I understand that you wanted the best for me, that you didn't want me to go through that pain of losing my mother, he said, placing his hand on William's shoulder. But you should have told me earlier, and I would have understood everything. William clutched Caleb's hand tight, unable to hold back his tears. It's okay, Dad. Can you take me to her grave? I would like to go there, Caleb said. Why, of course, dear. William agreed with a smile. We will go there tomorrow, all right? Sure, Caleb said, and walked away as William gulped his beer and sat back. Caleb and his dad arrived at the cemetery the following afternoon. The silence of the graves was haunting as the boy marched behind his dad on the dilapidated sidewalk. Suddenly, William stopped before an overgrown tomb with the epitaph, Sarah J., engraved on the crumbled tombstone. Well, hello, Sarah, William said as he lit a cigarette. Our son is here. He has come to visit you. Caleb knew there was no use in suppressing his emotions, so he let them pour out of his eyes. He fell to his knees and bitterly sobbed as he gingerly brushed his hands on the overgrown tombstone. William walked away to his car, leaving his son alone at the grave. An hour passed, and Caleb still sat beside his mother's tomb, talking to her about all things good and bad that had happened in his life in her absence. Goodbye, Mom. He rose to leave. I'm sorry again. Dad just told me about you. I'm still shocked. I'll visit often. I promise. A loud honk of a car behind his SUV jolted Caleb to the moment. The traffic had cleared, and Michelle leaned forward from the back seat to see if everything was all right. Sir, we're getting late. I think we should keep going, she said. Oh, yes. Yes, Michelle, Caleb replied. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about something. We're almost there. If you really turn out to be my mother, then that means only one thing. For 12 years, I've been visiting the grave of a woman I don't even know. Caleb thought as he hit the gas pedal and sped to the hospital point 2 minutes later. He pulled over at the hospital parking lot and hurried inside with Michelle. He rushed to a staff nurse at the reception as Michelle hastily followed him. Excuse me, nurse, we'd like to take a DNA maternity test immediately, Caleb said. I want the results as soon as possible. I'm ready to pay any additional amount. It's urgent. I want the results today. A couple of hours passed as Caleb and Michelle anxiously sat in the waiting hall, awaiting the test results. So, what is the last thing you remember from your past, Michelle? He asked, breaking the silence. Michelle pursed her lips. I remember opening my eyes in the woods. A woodcutter said he found me floating in the river, she recounted. And then a hospital when doctors told me I had amnesia. And now, this new life. Caleb's mind started haunting him. There were no fragments of her past that Michelle could recall or make peace with. At that moment, the nurse approached them and handed over a file in his hand. Maternity rate, 99.99%. Caleb exclaimed as he read. That means you are my mother. It felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck her. Michelle trembled as Caleb threw himself into her arms and cried. You are my mom, Michelle, Caleb said. But why did Dad lie to me that you died in an accident at that moment? He pondered. I have an idea. Come with me, he told her as they left the hospital. An hour later, Caleb and Michelle were looking out the car window from across William's mansion. Are you ready? He asked her. Yes, she replied. Do you remember everything I told you? You know what you're supposed to tell him, right? Caleb asked. Yes, I remember everything. Don't worry, Michelle replied with a confident grin and stepped out of the car. She was nervous, yet mustered the courage as she walked up to the front door of William's mansion and knocked. The door creaked open moments later. Good evening, Michelle greeted William, who froze in his tracks after seeing her. Jennifer? He gasped. Jennifer? No, I'm Michelle, Michelle replied with a chuckle. I'm from Mayflower Cosmetics. I just wanted to offer your wife a gift set worth $150. What? Are you kidding me? But how is this possible? William retorted, composing his anxiety almost immediately. Michelle smiled. Oh, I guess you've confused me with someone else, she replied confidently. Maybe we could have met before, or seen each other in the life I don't remember. The thing is, I have amnesia. I don't remember anything that happened to me over 20 years ago. Amnesia? William stuttered after a long, nervous pause. Oh, maybe you're right. I likely confused you with someone. Michelle nodded as William looked at her from top to toe. Never mind. You just reminded me of an old friend. I'm William, by the way. William extended his hand, and Michelle's gut had already started to churn with fear. Michelle. As I said, she shook hands with William, and at that moment, he noticed the oval-shaped scar on her left arm. He remembered his dead wife bearing a similar scar on the same spot. No, this can't be real. William was terrified as he looked Michelle in the eye. Look, Michelle, I didn't mean to offend you or something, William said. Sorry about my behavior. I didn't want to sound insensitive, you know. My wife is not home now. Maybe you have something for men? Oh, yeah, you do. Michelle replied. Great. Hey, can you join me for a cup of coffee? I could also see what you've got, William said, smiling as he invited Michelle over. Well, why not? She exclaimed and followed him inside. I was wondering, Michelle, how long have you been in this city? William asked as Michelle took off her overcoat and put it on the hanger. 2 weeks, she replied. I still don't know much about this place. Oh, can I please use the restroom to wash my hands? I can't touch the cosmetics with greasy hands, and my hands are a bit sweaty. Yeah, sure. The bathroom is right there behind you. Only 2 weeks? William said, his gaze fixated on Michelle's every move. Well, welcome to our city. I'm sure you and your family love being around here. Michelle turned around and smiled. Oh, thanks. I don't have a family as such. I live in a small rented house south of Main Street, one at the end of the lane. To be honest, house rents here are insane. Landlords aren't considerate about single women with amnesia. Michelle joked as she lathered her hands with soap. William then led her to the kitchen, which was eerily dark and quiet. Michelle was unsettled. The glinting knives in the rack heightened her fear, but she decided to keep calm, just like how Caleb had told her. Hey, it's so dark in here, she turned to William. Do you mind if I just turn on the light? Of course not, William replied. The switch is inside but before he could finish, he saw Michelle opening the kitchen cabinet by the door and flicking the light switch. He could not believe his eyes when he watched her do that. Michelle? William said, I must say, you have such a great intuition. None of our guests were able to locate the switch until we told them it was in the cabinet by the door. Michelle stopped in her tracks. A strange, unsettling feeling fluttered in the pit of her stomach as she grabbed her bag and stepped back. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I don't know how it happened. I, uh, this place kind of looks familiar to me. I don't understand how. Guess it's another crazy day. I think I should probably go now. Hey, wait a minute, get back here. William ran after Michelle. But by the time he made it out of his house, he saw her boarding an old cheap car. Gosh, that was close. Michelle told Caleb as she settled in her car. Caleb, it seems to have worked. I thought I opened the wrong cabinet at first, but thank goodness I found the switch. That's great. Everything is fine, Caleb said. And don't worry, I'll be there before you reach. And yes, he is following you. Around 20 minutes later, Caleb pulled over several yards away from Michelle's house. He saw Michelle stepping down from her car and walking inside. And moments later, he noticed his dad's car stop outside Michelle's gate. After a momentous pause, the car turned around and sped away. Mom, do as I say. Caleb called Michelle from his car. I'll come back in half an hour, okay? Lock all the doors. And don't forget what I just told you. Tonight's going to be a game changer. And the truth will unravel itself. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. Caleb was sitting in a car he had borrowed from a friend and was quietly waiting across the road from Michelle's house. The night was calm. The piercing shrill of crickets shattered the silence as Caleb looked around. Suddenly, bright headlights illuminated the stillness of the street, and Caleb saw his dad's car pull up in front of Michelle's gate. He concealed his face under his hoodie and watched William emerge from the CEA, or did I in the dimly lit night. William cautiously crept into the secluded backyard of Michelle's house. He looked around. It was eerily quiet and dark, and an open window on the balcony drew his attention. With a cautious and calculated move, William climbed the pipeline leading to the balcony and squeezed his way through the open window. As he slipped into the bedroom, the soft glow of the moonlight illuminated the silhouette of Michelle lying on the bed. That a heavy gasp escaped William's lips as he pulled out a glimmering Bowie knife from his leather jacket and quietly approached the bedside. Aiming for the stomach and chest, William stabbed the figure several times. Suddenly, the bedroom door slammed open and the lights turned on. "You're under arrest." 2 police officers burst into the bedroom with handcuffs, and Michelle accompanied them. Much to William's shock, with bulging, terrified eyes, he turned to the bed, only to realize he was standing in a mess of feathers and cotton. "What? No, it can't be." He gasped as he hastily lifted the blanket and discovered a chilling sight. A human effigy was under it. "Mr. Anderson, you're under arrest." The sheriff cuffed William and escorted him to the police station. In the intense interrogation room, he finally broke his silence and confessed to the spine-chilling crime he had committed 28 years ago. As it turned out, Jennifer had found out about William's affair with his secretary, Olivia. She wanted to file for divorce, but that was the last thing William wanted to happen to him. Afraid it would tarnish his reputation, and that he would have to pay alimony and share his property with Jennifer after the divorce, he decided to get rid of her. When the opportunity presented itself during a picnic with his family in the woods, William pushed her off a steep cliff. He sighed with relief and immediately fled the spot after seeing her body plunge into the river below. But unfortunately, William failed to wait a little more to see Jennifer getting washed away in the current after miraculously surviving the deadly fall.